And I am now going to switch off the sounds. Sorry. And all quiet now.
It's actually nice.
Which do I prefer, the silence or the... Anyway, I'll hand over to my colleague Aurélie, who will kick us off.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session, Promote Digital Wellbeing Through Learning Design. It's a conversational and a session where we investigate what digital wellbeing is and how we can bring it through learning design in your courses and lessons, if possible. So this is Sam, that most people know here, and I'm Aurélie, and you can either use the hashtags that were on the previous slide, Cat Web Series or Digital Wellbeing, and at Catalyst ITEU if you want to chat on Twitter during this or after and carry on the conversations. We are both e-learning consultants at Catalyst, and we provide training and consultancy on the usual everything Moodle Workplace, Moodle Educator Certificate, Tutora, Mahara Portfolio, Big Blue Button as a web conferencing tool, which we're using now, learning design for online and blended delivery. Our background for both of us is teaching, assessment and course design in higher and further education. And you can see us on Twitter with mostly our private stuff mixed with some professional things at Samwise Fox and at EdTech Yogi. So where are we? Well, we're not actually based in the UK office, which is in Brighton. We work remotely. And actually that also gives us an insight of what it is to work remotely and online and digital well-being from our personal experience of working online. So the other office is kind of about to open, I think. Correct me, Sam, in Dublin. We've got a temporary element in Dublin. And the headquarters are in Wellington, in New Zealand, for Catalyst. And then we have offices in Australia and one just opened in Canada. You'll see on here a list of the services we provide. We Moodle Premium Partners, Tutora Platinum Partners, Mahara Partner, and we provide AWS cloud hosting, custom development for any of those things, consulting, training, Moodle Educator Certificate, which is kicking off very soon, which is exciting, theme design and load testing, and many other Moodle, Tutora, and Mahara services. So if you have any queries, just drop us a line and see how we can help you. So this webinar today is not a traditional webinar in the sense that we will present some information, some facts and research to you, but we want to actually have a conversation with you and get to understand how you deal with digital well-being, what are your barriers, what are things that have worked for you as well. And we presented the context of further education and higher education, but it will work across CPD training and other sectors in education and training. So the first part will be about what we mean by digital well-being, so looking at digital well-being overall. Then we'll go into learning design principles and frameworks and how can these be helpful in terms of supporting digital well-being. And then we'll open up to how we can help with the community and sharing and help to get some ideas from you as well.
Okay, so I'll kick it off. We're going to switch our cameras off now, so not to overload you with too many wonderful things to look at, because we are wonderful. So we're going to discuss firstly about digital well-being. You know, how are we defining it, and where are we currently with our own digital well-being? And I don't know if any of you have tried to define it yourself or look for a definition, but there are lots out there. So looking over about 30, 40 different definitions, these are the three that really hit home for me. Two are quite similar, one is very different. So the one that came up a lot in discussions with the community is the DISC definition. So it's about the impact of technologies and digital services on the mental, physical and emotional health. Again, the University of York have a great course on FutureLearn. And again, they talk about the impact on health, relationships and society. But then there's the other one, the enhancement, improvement of well-being with the use of digital media from UNESCO, which we thought was quite an interesting take on it as well. So just as a quick sort of introductory activity, I wondered if you could write in the chat, do you have your own definition? So if you work in an institution, does your university or college or training provider have their own definition? If you could just pop it in the chat, or if there's any of these three that you feel, you feel strongly about and you think does fit your own definition of digital wellbeing, just chuck it in the chat. Just write either JISC, York, or UNESCO. It'd be really, really interesting to see. I guess this is where I could share my nice happy forest music again. Woodland birds chatting. I'll give you a minute or so just to start typing.
And if you don't have one, is there anything in those definitions that you like or don't like as well?
Yeah, good one, Sonia. Yeah, I think digital wellbeing. I can't remember who I was talking to, but people think they know what digital wellbeing is, and you say, "Well, how's your digital wellbeing?" "Oh, it's great, it's great." Or, "No, I'm a bit tired." But nobody actually really knows what digital well-being could, my definition of digital well-being could be very different to yours. So I think having a institutional definition would be really, really good to sort of benchmark how people are doing.
Yeah, personally, I had it mainly through my when my phone asked me what apps I wanted to switch on and off for digital well-being. That's the main starting point for me.
And I must give a shout out to our colleagues at Maynooth University in Ireland. It was through discussions with them about how their colleagues and students have responded to the recent lockdowns, have actually kick-started all of this. And what started as a little idea has snowballed into something really, really rather beautiful. And this is something else that we want to share with you as well. Yep, JISC, it's all good. We love JISC.
Yeah, the idea of conversation with real humans. I like that too.
Yeah, the UNESCO one, it's a good definition for an ideal situation. I mean, we all want to strive towards the ideal, but there is a balance, and it's not always plain sailing the whole time either. There's going to be pressures coming from different areas that we need to be ready and resilient for. What's the digital wellbeing? It'll go outside for a walk. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so removing the unwell-being. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So just moving on. So this is sort of like a something that was presented to me in a discussion. Something that they do with their students is I want to do a little check-in with you. How are you feeling today? And Aurelie is going to put the link in the channel, so you can all click on it. But I would like you to sort of, in this activity, are you doing it, Aurelie? Yes. So what I would like you to do is share with me 3 words that describe your current level of well-being. So this is using Mentimeter. It's a free app, a free service. I mean, obviously there's paid for services. So for example, if I'm being honest, I am tired, but that's because I have a 4-year-old little one who doesn't sleep very well. I am feeling, busy, and I'm also feeling positive. Because we've come over a massive, great big hurdle, and we are getting there. And I should spell positive correctly. So I'm just going to submit that.
And we won't know who submitted what. So
it's completely
you can
anonymous.
be honest, and you can be all positive or all negative, and we don't put what you want, what you expected to answer.
Yeah, you tell us how you're really feeling. Okay, so those of you that are new to Mentimeter, here it is. I've got an image. I can see on the corner here how many people are responding. And if I turn it round, let's have a look. Yep. Eye ache. Oh gosh, yes. Yep. So as more and more people add to it, it then it updates itself, and the words that are most commonly used are in the middle. And interestingly, this looks very similar to the pattern that we've done in our testing with colleagues as well.
Yeah, except there's eye ache and I've got earache.
Yes. And it's interesting seeing angry being written, because I know that in the UK recently it's just been released how the new tier system would happen, and yeah, I'm feeling a bit concerned about how I need to pick 2 households and 2 households only to see over Christmas. That's kind of a frustration. Oh, longing for fresh air. Yep.
But it's nice to see some positive as well in there, or some energized. I like that.
Okay, so we give it another sort of 30 seconds. We've got 13 people responding, which is probably about right, actually.
Yeah.
I'm assuming not everybody is sat at a desk watching us. So hopefully some of you are maybe just watching through an iPad or something where you just want to be passive because, you know, you had quite a busy day. To cut down screen time. Yep.
Yes. We're using digital tools to ask about digital well-being. We know.
Yes. The irony, yeah, it was not lost on us, all the people that we spoke to. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to move on. So, you know, we're all a bit tired and overwhelmed and busy, so I thought I'd give you some free serotonin here. And just, you know, for those of you that are struggling or have colleagues that do struggle, you know, things that can help are, you know, sunlight, getting in touch with nature, seeing cute, fluffy animals as well. I mean, I know some universities, they hire, you know, armies of puppies, don't they, for students to cuddle during exam periods to reduce stress. So don't forget there's all these things out there as well. There is a link at the bottom, so this NHS link, it's more of a mental health check-in as well. So you can fill in the quiz and it gives you some ideas of what you can do to sort of help yourself or seek further help if you need to. So yeah, if you can, you know, try and incorporate walks, get some sun. You know, are you sitting down too much? Can you stand up? Can you know, do all your webinars while standing? Different things like that. Okay, so let's move on. And first of all, I want to say a big thank you to people who took part in this. I had an opportunity to speak to Moodlers in the community, so the mixtures of learning technologists, learning designers, lecturers, L&D manager, QA officer, TEL team manager, and wellbeing officer. So a big range of people and roles. I spoke to people in England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, and this covered further higher and training providers, further and higher education and training providers. As you can see, I've got some 2 screenshots here with some people I spoke to. This is the you know, our Scottish friends, so lovely Gordon and Jasmine. So talking to Gordon, and he was sharing some internal resource that he created to support his lecturing colleagues up at the Arts College, University of Glasgow. And Jasmine from Forth Valley College, she shared what they were doing on Microsoft Teams with regards to digital wellbeing. Yeah, wellbeing officer, new role being created. Yeah, you can be the European wellbeing officer, Siggy. So just a quick shout out to those who took part. It was just a very small group, last minute, and it was just basically an email saying, do you have an hour to talk to me? And you know, as you mentioned, Andrew, the irony of spending nearly, I don't know, 10, 11 hours, 12 hours talking to people online about digital wellbeing. It was exhausting over a 3-day period, but it was really rewarding as well. So thank you everybody for your time. So before I get on to the things that we discussed, I wanted to draw attention to Jesse Stommel, and those of you that were at Alt-C last year, he was one of the keynotes there. You know, he was a very inspiring, engaging keynote. But also on Twitter and his blogs, he shares some really, really interesting insights and information. And, you know, just so that we're all on the same, you know, level of understanding here, what happened in the first lockdown was a situation of having to rapidly try and replicate, you know, normality, you know, hour-long lectures online through Zoom, assignment submissions through Moodle. You know, that emergency remote teaching is not the same as online learning, and they should be seen as two different things. So, well done for those of us that got through the first lockdown and we got through the other side, and well done to all those that are still having to revisit their courses and redevelop it for the new semester of lockdown when they have to happen. So from these conversations I had with the Moodle educators that I mentioned, there were some key points, and we are worried about our teaching colleagues. Lecturers having to upskill really quickly, but they don't have time in between to reflect. The common phrase, we know we can't do everything, but we must. So how can we do everything? No matter how prepared I am, I always having to hit the ground running, and that was before COVID-19. And that was from one of my friends who's a lecturer. Another thing is that the bond between teaching units and other units is stressed. So within their own team, they might be happy and they would be getting on well. But with colleagues in different teams, that bond has started to sort of break down and become frazzled. And also students and staff during the first lockdown, so we think about March, April, May, we were very forgiving of each other. It was, new ground, unknown territory. People, things went wrong. It was okay. There's a lot of forgiveness. However, semester one, those institutions and colleges that had to start delivering online or like a hybrid way of delivery, you've got those new first years coming in who are expecting, they expect to be told how things are going to run. They expect things to just work. And so the forgiveness may not be there as much. It's the same for staff as well. So teaching staff may not be as forgiving of themselves if things go wrong. So some of the other common themes, it's the first time I've heard of Zoom fatigue, so digital fatigue and exhaustion, and Zoom fatigue is very much a big thing. And again, the irony, I'm talking to you via a webinar tool about digital wellbeing. I don't think there was any other way we could have got this conversation going. But there's also things about accidentally increasing the workload. So staff over assessing students, giving them assignments that they have to do online and doubling their own workload. And the conversations of, well, would you assess your students this much in a face-to-face situation? No. Okay, so why are you going to do it online? There are other ways that you could do this. Feelings of inadequacy, that their content isn't good enough. So many people that I spoke to mentioned academics feeling that they have to create blockbuster quality content, whereas something as easy as, like on Khan Academy, where you just sort of talk through your materials, you can annotate them, that is just good enough sometimes. Lots of conversation about always having to be on, so always on with no time to reflect, to try new things. You always have to be seen to be present online, and sometimes not having a dividing time between finishing work and your family time in the evening or your own personal space. Feelings of isolation and that they're not coping, and that they're the only ones that are not coping as well. Concerns about being seen to be human in front of the camera, so you have to put on your teacher mask, and things that happen, such as your child might come over for a cuddle, or your cat might jump on your laptop and close your screen. They're very, very concerned about these things. And again, irony of needing to use tech to promote digital well-being, so like an inbox full of invites to online yoga classes or virtual bake-offs. It's there's a balance, but we don't quite know where this balance is.
Yes, and we have also anecdotal student feedback on similar issues. So the overloads there as well. So digital fatigue and exhaustion, too many activities, discussion activities across concurrent modules. So not enough planning in between modules for the same program, for example. Concerns about privacy of home. So sometimes people having to share study spaces, if you can call them that, with siblings or parents, because that's where they end up studying. And there's that question, and thank you for raising this, Farihan, in Maynooth. Is the third space. So if you haven't heard of the third space, there's I took the Wikipedia definitions, and it used to not be related to online. It was a third space where people go away from work and home, like a community space, and it could be a religious space or any kind of community space. And now that new third space seems to be that home studying. So you are at home, but you're not in a home context, you have to switch off from that, and you are also studying. And so it's kind of a new space where it's harder for some people to get those connections, and it's a new space to get used to. So a lot of questions around that. Community and cohort are another aspect of the feedback. So finding it hard to make friends, especially for those first-time students. A negative spiral from unfocused discussions. So where discussions haven't got a focus, it ends up being a lot of complaints and negative things, which can negatively affect well-being as well, including the fact that it's always on. And that was a comment, and I think it's in a video I'm going to show you next. I'm not going to play it, but one of the comments was, communicating with others feels like a bit of a chore. So that's in the students' perspectives we looked at, and this one, the student space, is a student digital storytelling. And so that video, I'll put the link in the chat, or I don't know if I have it actually, but I will put the link in the chat in a bit. And it's really interesting to see a student perspective in that way. And then there were articles on JISC. This one's very relevant. It was during the lockdown, so perspective in the 9th of June. A comment that struck me was, I struggle with digital technology at the best of times, let alone being bombarded with emails and support guides. So this is doing the digital well-being with the digital tools again, and feeling bombarded by more and more. So that's been one. I'm going to try and post that video link. Sorry, a second. Okay. There. For reference. And so we looked at learning design and wondered whether that can be help in terms of the learning digital well-being, and whether we can help people with that aspect at Catalyst. So what is learning design? So the idea of learning design is and how we used it when I worked at RAU as well, is a structured approach to designing programs and modules and learning activities. So based on key principles, we use the key principles of assessment first and accessibility. A learning design framework is a structured approach to learning and teaching online. So these principles could be any, and that's why there are many, many learning design frameworks out there. And we chose now to look at about 3 of them to see, which was some that we knew had some element of supporting well-being. But if you are looking at 2 specific learning design frameworks and want to know how to integrate digital well-being aspects, come and have a chat with us. So one of the key aspects and questions is, you might have heard the expression, they need to Maslow before they can bloom. So that's never been as relevant as in the last 10 months, basically, where we really want, before they can deal with the Bloom's taxonomy of learning and the actual learning, we must ensure that students' basic needs are met. So sharing, starting with psychological and safety needs through to social belonging, self-esteem and self-actualization. So making sure they are ready and present to learn, that well-being is fulfilled. So as we look through the course design frameworks, we are looking at how is that exemplified and taken into account. So the first one we looked at, which was mentioned the most during the interviews that Sam ran. Sorry for those who had the interviews, I couldn't attend because I wasn't well. But so Sam ran those interviews, and JISC framework was the most mentioned. So there's a framework that's been referred to many times, and it's published under a briefing paper for practitioners, and it incorporates these digital learning well-being aspects. So these are some of the key aspects. And they echo the best practice advice. So they help you review and assess your own teaching practice. I'll put a link to all of these as well in there in a minute. here we've got positives and negatives. So things that you should try and look into including into your learning design, and things that you should try and write off of your learning design. So the digital overload we've mentioned, for example, time learning new technologies. So too many new things to learn can be disruptive to the well-being, and the lack of choice. So giving more choice, increase choices, increase more engaging assessments, practicing digital skills for employment, so real life, making more relevant, engaging learning activities, and giving alternative ways to learn, if possible. It's not always possible, but can you give them the choice of the activities? That will really make a difference. So for those who know Gilly Salmon's Itivities, this is a 5-stage model which incorporates elements of e-moderating and technical support to act as a foundation for learning. So for online learning to be successful and happy, participants need to be supported through a structured developmental process. So the 5-stage model you see there provides a framework or scaffold for a structured and paced program. And each of the steps provides support and development for the participants to build on their expertise and learning, basically, so step by step. And the last one we're going to talk about today, but feel free to share your experiences on others as well in the chat, and we can review some of that or talk a bit more towards the end as well, is UDL, so Universal Design for Learning. A lot of you may be familiar with this. Some of you may be less familiar. You might have heard the name. It's a set of principles for curriculum development. So learning design framework, basically. But the point is to give individuals equal opportunities to learn. It's about being inclusive. So it provides a blueprint for creating methods, materials, assessment that works for everyone. So it's not just a single one-size-fits-all, but rather a flexible approach that can be customized. So you don't have to use all of the elements in there, but obviously the more you use, the more inclusive that will be. And it's separated into engagement, representation, and action and expression. The framework used to be actually slightly different. They've changed it from the 2012 to 2018 version, but this is the same points. They're just in different orders. The ones that strike home in terms of promoting digital well-being are optimize individual choice and autonomy, which we've just mentioned with the JISC one, minimize threats and distractions, foster collaboration and community, and the one I like the most, I think, is the 9.2, facilitate personal coping and skill strategy. So how you would use this is actually review your learning content and make sure you give those opportunities in each, and there are examples through the framework on how to do that. We've added a few other resources in here. There are so the JISC Digital Experience Insight Survey 2020, and this is not just the survey. There are actually conclusions, and there are aspects into how institutions have been dealing with the impact of COVID-19 as well. So there's one publication for HE and the other one for FE, and then we've put some pointers as well in terms of sorry, I'm going to share trying to do two things at a time, share links in terms of self-directed learning, so digital wellbeing course on FutureLearn from University of York, and then the UDL course. So we know this one is not running currently, but there'll be some new versions, I'm sure, soon enough.
So with regards to learning design, one of the questions that I asked all those that took part in the sort of interviews, I say they're interviews, they were chats, they were discussions. They were meant to be 30-minute quick chats, and they ended up, some of them 90 minutes long, because it was just so wonderful to be able to talk to people online rather than having to text them or message them through, you know, these messaging services or emails. But like I said, the one that really kicked this off for me was the discussion with Lisa at Maynooth University, and she said, you know, I said, so how are your colleagues doing? And she said, well, she's one of the lecturers there started to produce weekly podcasts, so that replace a webinar with a podcast with the key points, so that students can listen to them whilst out on a walk. And I thought, oh, isn't this a wonderful idea? I wonder if I could gather together more of these ideas and share them back to the community. And so, here we are in the webinar. But other things, so around the idea of active learning, engaging learning. So design activities that involve some offline reflection, so does everything have to be done online? Could they keep, the days of where we used to keep a physical journal and then type up all the best bits to put in a reflective assignment at the end? Could we go back to the good old days of offline reflection? I know in my university days we used to keep a paper journal. Things like making group work task orientated. So as already picked up on doing the student voice. Some students, if they're just given, okay, here you go, 10 minutes to discuss what we've just covered, well, it's not very focused. You need to give them something to do. So you've got 10 minutes to come up with an answer to X, Y, Z. Otherwise, they're gonna, they need a bit of direction. And also, if you watch that video, a lot of them say they haven't actually made any friends yet. Sometimes this is the first opportunity they've got to talk to other people. So if you give them something to do, it removes that sort of barrier at the start of, I don't know how to talk to new people. And also some of the feedback is, keep groups together for longer. So, if you are going to set group work, give them a couple of weeks together in the same group so they can make friends, so they can learn how each other works. Having to shift group for every different lecture or module could be quite jarring for them. Other things like for the live webinar sessions, open the room early. So today we actually opened the room 15 minutes early just in case people wanted to pop in and say hello, which was really lovely. At the end as well, so this session will finish in 10 minutes. However, I'm happy to hang around for another 15 minutes if people just want to chat. Sometimes this is the first time people have spoken to another person all day if you live on your own. Could you fit in something like a wellness poll or check-in at the start like what we did? And also ask students to suggest songs that could be played during webinars. So that's something somebody said that their students do. So other things as well, so around assessment, so allow flexibility in assessment submission. So give students the choice of how they actually want to submit their content. Okay, it could be a 2,000-word assignment, or it could be a 5-minute presentation. They may want to do like a webinar to a panel. They may want to create an animation using a variety of those tools that they can use. But don't give them too much flexibility because they might be overwhelmed. So that's some of the feedback as well that we've got. And also, again, give students choices or options. So if you're going to assign them tasks, give them a choice of which one to do, so they're not just funneled, everyone having to do the same thing as each other. Making assessments authentic, so giving the students opportunity to put their voice and their experience in their work. So I remember, at my time at Middlesex University, my favourite projects are the ones where I got to choose the topic, or I got to choose what I wanted to talk about. I absolutely loved writing my dissertation because it was something that interested me, and I probably put more effort into that than I did anything else in the university. Incorporate peer and self-assessment opportunities. So you as the educator have to keep marking all this work. A lot of these students, when they get to university, they're training to become adults. A lot of them are already adults, so give them, the chance to develop the tools to work in groups and give feedback, good feedback. And again, do all assessments need a grade? If you do follow Jesse Stommel on Twitter, you'll notice that he talks about this a lot. Just giving them sort of like a level or just feedback in general, is that just as effective? Do they need to have an actual score at the end? Something to think about. But there's a really cool article here that he wrote about ungrading. And then finally, about instructional design, these are things that, it's something that we've been shouting about since day dot. I mean, I've now been working in learning technology for 14 years now, and instructional design is still relevant today as it was back then. So make sure that your virtual page, so the majority of us are probably Moodlers, is your module page well structured so it's easy to find stuff. So students need to find stuff at a glance. especially nowadays where people are getting sick left, right and centre. If you're a lecturer and you go off sick, can a colleague quickly jump in and pick up where you left off, even if it's just to facilitate a session so students can talk to each other about the content? Do they know where to find the webinar links? Something that was really, really interesting that was suggested. So just as we do with learning design, link back to digital wellbeing. So when we say, right, we're going to do this activity and we're going to use this tool, so that we can learn from each other and link back to digital wellbeing. So we're going to do this group work activity because we learn really well in groups, but also it gives you a sense of community, which is good for your well-being. So nothing wrong with linking back to well-being whenever you can. Chunking up content, so there's a good mix of synchronous and asynchronous activities. So this is where the blend at the very start of lockdown needs to shift. So there was a lot of synchronous activities. It's you have to sit through a webinar. I mean, obviously not everybody did that, but a lot of lecturers, it was their first time trying to teach online rather than just provide an environment to submit coursework. They just jumped in and just did their 90-minute Zoom calls or button or whatever technologies that you use. So think about how you can give them pre-work, pre-reading, reflection spaces that doesn't have to be done at a set time. They could do it that fits in with their schedule, them being the students. And then use your colleagues to experiment new tools with and go for low risk activities first time round. So, don't choose a tool thinking, oh, this is a really, really cool tool, but have it as a high risk, high stakes activity. So don't use it for any kind of assessment where it actually counts towards a final grade or final standard, because it could be terrifying for both the lecturer and the student. And use your colleagues, because you can all learn from each other as well. I know that's the best way I learn, is through sharing stuff and seeing other people share stuff with me. So what can we do, Aurelie?
So what can we do? We can use the community and talk to each other and help ourselves in that process. When Sam ran through the interview, we asked what would a resource to help you look like, and a lot of ideas came out of that. So a checklist, rubric or self-assessment form. One I like a lot is the 30-day step change, so like a calendar type, like a mindset calendar, so a thing to try every day. Videos, exemplar courses and activities, course combinations of all the above, so different levels of engagement, so some quick wins and then some self-assessment and deeper learning. Or some ideas is we don't need a new framework, just build a digital well-being layer or aspect on top of an existing learning design framework, which is another idea.
So as a starter for 10, we've started to put together some ideas into a Moodle course. Now, this will become open and available. This is just what it looks like at the moment. It's a placeholder to make it look pretty, but it's going to be structured around what came out of these discussions. So it gives people a choice of what level they want to go in. So if they just want a light touch checklist, you can go in and get it. If you want to do a course, we can refer people onto a course if they want to. Something like a self-assessment checklist, so that when you're designing your materials, there's you can go through and say, okay, what level is my content at now? What's the next level? So sort of like a minimum, a good, an exemplar. Some examples of courses as well we can put in there. So examples of really good learning design happening with regards to digital wellbeing, and an area to share ideas, because this community is really, really important. And I have a Padlet activity here where I've put all those ideas. Oh, Cody's already done it. I've put those ideas already on a Padlet, and I would love it if you could spend some time, for the next sort of 10 minutes, just adding stuff that you or your colleagues have done, or things that just come to mind, because I'd love to pull them together, because I'd like to actually build these as part of this Moodle course that will be available, so people can actually see these ideas in action. The activity is probably going to be dance focused, because that's my world that I came from before learning design and learning technology. So, but the activities can obviously be translated to lots of different subjects. I could try and remember how all the science stuff worked from my biology days, but that might not work for me. So thank you very much for joining us. We recommend that you do use your networks. So, if you are on Twitter, follow us, look at who we follow, look at who we're retweeting. I can't stress the value of tweet chats like for learning and teaching in higher education. So that happens every Wednesday evening, around about 8 o'clock. We collate them as well and blog about all the discussions that happen. So, I have some links here to the ones that I felt that were really, really relevant for, especially the last 6 months. There's a link to the actual hashtag, so you can see the latest and greatest tweets using that hashtag, but you can also scroll back. But also things like, this picture here, this screenshot of a tweet. So Alexandra tweeted this a couple of weeks ago, and it really inspired me at a time when I was feeling a bit tired, a bit low, a bit stressed out. And, I could go here and I could see staff and teachers and educators sharing their tips that help them. And it was just a really good uplifting moment. So, use your personal learning network because you can get some really cool stuff out of it. So here's some more examples of people sort of sharing their work in progress and saying, look here, community, I'm using this. Have a go and, let me know how it goes, or, does this help you, or can you make it better for me? So use these networks because, we're all in this together. We want our students to become collegiate and networked and communicative between them. So we need to sort of practice what we preach, and not just in our own, our own subject specific silos or our own universities or institutions, but, across the world, because, we are amazing. We can be even better if we learn from each other. So on that note, I'm going to stop. I'm going to put my camera on as well, so you can see my face and how exhausted I am. But I just want to say that, I really enjoyed having these conversations with educators and, people that we've known in the community for many, many years. So this is just the start of something beautiful, I hope. And this is going to be something that I hope to keep developing at Catalyst as a sort of side project of my main job, because we all have our full-time job. This is stuff that we do. We all need a pet interest, a pet project, and this is definitely something that I'm interested in because it pulls together technology, teaching and learning, and well-being. So yes, this is me. So Sam Taylor, and that's my email address and my Twitter. And this is Aurelie, her email address and her Twitter. This is our contact information. As we said at the start, we're both consultants at Catalyst. So if you want us to maybe do workshops with your colleagues, or if you're really, really slammed for time and can just do with an external coming in and talking to your colleagues, we're here. When I say come in, we'll come in virtually. We can't come in on premise as yet. But
thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you were to, if you did want to switch your camera on and talk to us, you're more than welcome.
We can stop the recording if you want, and then we can have a chat with everyone.
Yeah, actually, I will stop the recording now just to give people, an extra layer of privacy if they want it.